Welcome to Workplace Psychology with Dr. Martha Greidick. I'm Dr. Martha Greidick. This podcast examines a wide variety of work-related issues through the lens of industrial and organizational psychology. And while many of the topics discussed here may be seen as intended for white-collar employees and their employers, in reality, the ideas presented here are applicable across organizations and industries. Additionally, many of the topics discussed here may be applicable outside of the workplace. I encourage you to examine what's presented here, apply what makes sense to you, and simply discard the rest. Greetings everyone, Dr. Greidick here. A quick reminder that my new book, The Stress Solution, is now available on Amazon. I encourage everyone to check it out. The link for it is in the description below. Look, we all have stress. Stress is not something that we can avoid or eliminate altogether. The key to your success when it comes to dealing with stress and its effects, it all comes down to how well you manage the stress in your life, how effective you are with your stress management efforts. This book, The Stress Solution, is all about mastering stress management. It's about learning the types of skills that will be with you for the rest of your life's journey, the types of skills that can be applied throughout your lifetime. As situations change, as things change, you can always rely on that which you've mastered. So check out The Stress Solution. It's a great opportunity for you to finally master effective stress management. It's great for you. It's a great gift idea. Check out the link below. It's now available on Amazon. I highly recommend that you give it a look. Today I want to talk to you about a topic that I've been meaning to get to for a while. Let's talk about procrastination at work. To start, let's define procrastination. Procrastination basically is just the delay or prolonging of something. It could be a delay or prolonging of starting a task, but it also could be the delay or prolonging of finishing something, of finishing a task. So procrastination, although we often think of it as putting off the starting of something, it can also be the putting off of finishing of something. There are some very interesting statistics when it comes to procrastination at the workplace. Most people, that means more than half, report that they procrastinate in some way every single day. It could be some small thing where they put off a task to do later, but eventually get to it. But there's a smaller percentage of people who report that procrastination is a big part of their workplace experience, to the point where it has an effect on their performance and on their experience at work. Considering all that, this is kind of a big deal, especially when it comes to the workplace. The workplace relies and depends on people getting things done. But when procrastination is a regular part of the workplace experience, this is definitely a topic that's important for us to explore. Furthermore, when it comes to procrastination at the workplace, we're looking at its effects on productivity. But you may be surprised that the effects of procrastination go far beyond productivity. Procrastination, especially when it's something that's experienced regularly and over time, can also affect one's mental health. What happens when people procrastinate? Well, in some instances, when procrastination is part of the experience, especially on an ongoing basis, it can lead to higher levels of stress. Think about it. It makes sense. If you're putting off starting or finishing something at work, eventually it's bound to catch up with you, because if it's a task that needs to be done, somebody else will notice it. Somebody else will come looking for the end result or for the final product. And if you procrastinate getting to it, it can become very stressful to then deliver what you were supposed to deliver. We all know that stress comes with many potential effects, including stress on your physical health and on your emotional and psychological health. So there can be definite stressors associated with procrastination. Your procrastination can affect other people, and it most likely does. So the stress that you might be feeling, which is related to procrastination, is also going to be felt by other people. Other people may feel stressed because you're not delivering on the work that you're supposed to deliver. Similarly, people may start to be resentful towards you if you are allowing procrastination to be too big of a part of your own experience, because now it's affecting them too in one way or another. So what does all of that mean? Now we're looking at the effects of procrastination on your social relationships with others at the workplace. And of course, as I already mentioned when I talked about stress, there are bound to be consequences. If you're putting off something that never needed to be done, then it doesn't matter. But chances are, if there are things that are assigned to you at work, tasks, responsibilities, whatever that may be, they need to get done. They need your attention. They need to be processed by you in some way. And so if that doesn't happen, or if it happens later than was expected, or if it happens in a way that doesn't meet the standards, maybe because you were rushing, because you put off doing it and then you ended up not doing a good job or ended up making a lot of mistakes, then of course there are bound to be consequences in the end. It's not difficult to see that procrastination can really add up and affect not only the person who is doing the procrastinating, but everybody around them, especially when we look at it in the context of the workplace. What could be some of the roots of where procrastination comes from and why it happens? The simplest thing to consider is that a person may not know how to complete a task, so they put it off. It's difficult to complete a task if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know how to complete it. So that is one of the most common reasons why people procrastinate. But that, of course, is not the only reason. Some people may experience a fear of failure, or they may strive for perfection. They may want to produce the perfect end result. And because they know that they can't produce a perfect end result, or at least one that they might consider perfect, or they're so afraid of making mistakes, they may put off doing this task altogether. Now, this is a form of procrastination, or a root of why they would procrastinate. Unclear goals may also become roots of procrastination issues. If a person is unclear as to why they're doing something, why a task is being completed, how it fits into the bigger picture, that may be enough for some people to put off that task potentially indefinitely, or at least until they have a better understanding of how their efforts have meaning. Some people are simply unmotivated to do certain things. Some people are unmotivated to do a lot of things, but there may be certain specific things that are part of your job that just don't interest you, they don't light you up, and you just don't enjoy doing them. That in itself can be a big reason for procrastinating. Beyond simply not liking to do something, a certain task, or taking a certain responsibility at work, some people may be overwhelmed by the task, or maybe by the collective number of tasks and responsibilities and overwhelm can be a big problem when it comes to productivity. Overwhelm can definitely be a root cause of procrastination. When you're feeling overwhelmed, you don't even know oftentimes where to start. And if you don't know where to start, procrastination is not far behind. So how can you, as an individual, address procrastination, especially if you recognize that it's part of your own experience? Well, first, if you don't know how to do something, how to complete a task, if you don't understand what you're supposed to do, you have to find out. You have to ask. That's the simplest way. I understand that sometimes it can be difficult, sometimes it may be confusing as to who can help you. Sometimes it can be embarrassing, but let me tell you, it's going to be much worse if you don't complete the task, if you keep putting it off indefinitely. It's going to catch up with you. So if the reason you're putting something off is because you don't know how to get it done, please ask someone. The best person to ask might be your boss or a person, a colleague who does the same thing, who's responsible for the same kinds of tasks. They may already be very successful at completing that task, so why not ask for their help? Some tasks need to be broken down into smaller steps. They can be too overwhelming, too big, too confusing. Breaking things down into smaller pieces can help you with all of that, whether the task seems daunting because of its sheer size or because it's too confusing to tackle everything seemingly all at once. Break things down into smaller pieces and complete the smaller tasks one at a time to get the finished product ready and able to have it off your plate. Goals can be a big part of tackling procrastination. Make sure that you have realistic and specific goals. Make sure that the goals are well defined, that you know what you're aiming for. And then go from there. Use the SMART Goals acronym as a guidance for incorporating addressing goals as a way of tackling procrastination. Make sure that you have the right tools to tackle your tasks, to complete your tasks. That can be a big problem as to why people procrastinate. So seek out and use the right tools. Sometimes those tools can be very specific for the tasks. Other times it can be things such as time management. So invest some time and effort into making sure that you have the right tools, including proper time management skills and whatever tools go along with those for you specifically. Oftentimes when we think about procrastination, we tend to think in terms of individual employees, but truly, procrastination is an organizational issue. Think about the statistic that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. Most people report procrastinating in some way every single day, which in itself, that alone, makes it an organizational issue. So what does that mean? That means that the individual is not the only one responsible for addressing the issue of procrastination at work. The employer absolutely has to be involved. First and foremost, as an employer, you have to make sure that your employees have all the right training and all the right tools. People should not be without training and tools, because those are some of the basics of allowing people to do their jobs. The other thing you have to make sure as an employer is that people know what they're supposed to be doing. How to get something done is one thing, but if they don't know what they're supposed to do, that's a whole new problem. So make sure, beyond giving them the tools and the resources and the training, make sure people know what they're supposed to be doing and what the goal is. It's helpful for people to understand how what they do on a regular daily basis helps to put the collective vision together, helps the organization to achieve what it is that the organization does. So make sure that your employees have that information. This brings me to the piece about communication. An organization absolutely has to be able to communicate with its employees, not only about what the goals of the organization and the individual employee are, but also it has to be a two-way communication. Through communication, an employer figures out what it is that the employees need. So communication is a big one, and unfortunately, it tends to be something that is lacking within many organizations. As an employer, it's absolutely up to you to provide the kind of environment that supports its employees. And that means that it supports a safe environment where employees will feel comfortable and safe and secure to ask for help when they need help, whether that's asking for resources, the right tools, or simply asking about what they're supposed to do because they're confused. Something else that can be helpful from the perspective of the employer can also create an environment where they recognize and reward timely completion of tasks and projects. So that means that it's not just about focusing on who's procrastinating, who seems to be slacking off, who's not getting things done or not getting them done on time, but rather also making it, more importantly, an environment where you reward the kind of results you want to see as an employer. As this episode comes to an end, let's review what was discussed. Procrastination is a big issue for most organizations. Statistics alone tell us that most people, that means at least half, or really more than half of their employees, are procrastinating on a daily basis in some way. That should be a red flag to the employers right there. We started by defining procrastination. Most people realize that procrastination is simply putting off getting started with something, but procrastination can also be putting off the completion of something. Procrastination comes with consequences. It can have consequences to the individual who is engaging in procrastination, from physical health issues to mental health issues to simply increased levels of stress. It can also have a strain on the team, on the social interactions and the social relationships within that workplace environment. And of course, there are always some kind of consequences of not getting things done, not getting them done correctly, and not getting them done on time. It's important to look at the roots or the causes of procrastination, and those can vary from not understanding what to do or how to do something, how to complete a task, to simply not having the motivation to do it. Lack of goals or unclear goals can also trip you up when it comes to getting things done. And of course, fear of failure or tendencies for perfection or perfectionism can also be root causes for procrastination for many people. Some of the strategies to help you combat procrastination may be things such as seeking out help and clarification from your boss, or maybe even a colleague on how to get things done. Understanding what the goal is, understanding what you're supposed to do, seeking out support, the right tools, things such as proper time management. All of those can be extremely helpful when it comes to tackling procrastination at work. And when it comes to those big projects or overwhelming tasks, breaking things down into smaller pieces and tackling those smaller tasks can be just what the doctor ordered for combating procrastination. Of course, the organization, the employer, plays a big part in addressing procrastination at work. First and foremost, make sure your people have the right knowledge, understanding, training, and resources. Create the kind of environment that fosters communication, but also that fosters an environment where people are able to safely seek help and clarification. As an employer, it's also important that you recognize and reward timely completion of tasks. As this week unfolds, I encourage you to take a look at your own experiences with procrastination. Whether you're an individual employee or you're the employer, it's important to look at procrastination. Procrastination happens at all levels: management, non-management, C-suite. Every single level experiences some kind of procrastination. At least that's what statistics tell us. So make sure that you take this opportunity to review what procrastination means to you and what role, if any, it may play in your day. Today's episode provided you with some good starting points of how to tackle procrastination in your own workplace experience. And if you're an employer, this episode also provided some very good starting points of how to help the problem of procrastination at your organization. For those of you who are experiencing this podcast in an audio-only version, I invite you to check out my YouTube channel, Stress Free with Dr. G, where you can find the video version of the podcast. In addition to the video version of the podcast, you can also find videos that focus on stress management. So check out Stress Free with Dr. G on YouTube. The link for that is in the description below. Thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe to this podcast. I look forward to seeing you here again next time. Until then, I wish you joy and well-being.